April 2nd is a liberating day for our country. It's going to be reciprocal. In other words, whatever they're charging, we're charging. Very simple. If they're charging us, we're charging them. It's no longer they charge us if we don't charge them.
It's the latest move amid rapidly escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and its largest trade partners. Previous tariff announcements have roiled U.S. markets and fueled stagflation concerns. Greg Valliere, AGF Investments chief U.S. policy strategist, is joining us now with more. Greg, great to speak with you here. We've had a lot of investors telling us throughout the morning that we're just in a pause moment. We're in a wait and see moment here. At what point does the wait and see, particularly over policy coming from the White House, start to cause serious pain, both in the stock market but also in the economy?
Well, I think it already has. Good to see you. Good morning. I think this is going to continue to be an irritant. Right up until April 2nd, there's going to be, will they or won't they? What does Howard Lutnick say? Does he change his mind? It's a hell of a way to run a government, and I think this confusion is going to persist.
But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just says that this is a healthy market correction. Do you disagree?
Yes, absolutely. He's a lot richer than me and probably smarter too. But I would say that he's not right. I think the markets are really jittery, and you can't ignore how nervous the markets are right now. And I think this is going to persist for quite a while.
Greg, Adam Johnson, have you raised cash because of this uncertainty right now?
Oh no, I'm not in that part of the business. I'm in the research. But so I can't answer that.
It's interesting, though, Greg. I think that what Adam is speaking to is something that we've heard a lot of investors talk about, raising their cash allocations because they're so concerned about the path forward for the White House. I wonder how you're thinking about Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's insistence on keeping the 10-year yield lower and what you're telling clients about what the bond market movement and Treasury Secretary Bessent's focus on the bond market might mean when it comes to the economy moving forward.
Well, you have to say it's potentially one of the better stories that you could see interest rates stay roughly where they are, might even fall a little bit because of all of this uncertainty. Investors are going to have to look for a safe haven, and I think that Treasuries is a safe haven.
And I know a safe haven coming amid a lot of policy uncertainty. One of the things that I've been wondering about is that investors seemed to get it wrong when it came to tariffs. This idea that they were just a negotiating tactic, and now we've seen markets selling off every time we get a new tariff headline. To what extent could the same be true when it comes to tax cuts? Do you think that we are going to just get an extension of the same, or could we see additional tax cuts, which investors would be happy to see?
I think that one is a little easier to handicap than the tariff story. I do think that by the end of the spring, we'll be pretty close to having an extension of the 2017 Trump tax cuts. I think the votes are just barely there. But then the second part of his tax cuts, let's have cuts for people who make money through tips, state and local housing. There's lots and lots of other tax proposals that also look a little less likely. But I think the extension of those 2017 cuts are coming. I think it's just a question of when.
What do you think that road looks like then? Because obviously, given what occurred with the government shutdown, you could argue that maybe is indicative that the path to corporate tax cuts is a little bit smoother than we might have thought. What do you think that journey is going to look like?
Yeah, I'm not sure smoother, but I must say that all of us who follow Washington, myself certainly included, have underestimated Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. You got to give him credit. He has had quite a record. I think he'll have the votes, and in the Democrats, you see utter chaos, real animosity toward Schumer. So I think you've got one party that's divided, another party that's determined to get the tax cuts done.
And talk to me too, since you mentioned Chuck Schumer, I'm curious what you think about what we're seeing in terms of factions within the Democratic Party that obviously played out during the shutdown discussion. What does that tell you about what the sort of pushback to the Trump administration is going to look like from the Democratic Party from here on out?
Weak, limp, tepid. I don't think there's going to be a big pushback from the Democrats. They have looked awful. They continue to look really discombobulated, and I think that's a major reason why we will get a tax bill later this year.
All right. Well said, Greg. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Okay.
Appreciate it.